What's up, Rising Ground family? What is going on? Man, I hope y'all can see. I got this big old light. This room is kind of dark, and I got this light, but it's I hadn't used it here yet, and it's kind of weird. So hopefully, it's not too distracting. Nonetheless, let's get into it. Um, so, what does being sold out to God look like? What does it mean, and what does it look like to be sold out to God? Now, that means a statement like that can go on and on and on and on and on. I'm specifically here for a reason, and we'll find out what it is here in a minute. But that's a lot to unpack. A lot to unpack, man. We get so tangled up in history. We get so tangled up in things that mean different things in different times. Bear with me here. I'm not saying nothing is changing or something is new as far as God is concerned, but I am saying that we can be misinformed, or we can allow conditioning to disrupt our new wine. Again, this is not new at all, but I feel kind of stirred up to kind of talk about this. A lot of things being said again over social media. Sometimes it just stirs up things. Sometimes I have to kind of like find my way into what God is kind of releasing me to say, really releasing him to say through me, because it's always God, that's for sure. But just you want to be accurate, you want to be right, you want to be on time, you want to be obedient. So I think this is one of those moments again where God is doing something. So again, what does being sold out to God look like? I'm just going to specifically talk about Abraham briefly and just run through a couple of things. So let's go. Genesis 17. I'm going to actually start at verse 1. I'm going to read down to either 14 or 15. I'm going to read to the beginning of 15a. So Genesis 17, starting at verse 1. When Abram was 99 years old, the Lord appeared to him and said, I am God Almighty. Walk before me faithfully and be blameless. Then I will make a covenant. I will make my covenant between me and you, and will greatly increase your numbers. So right there, you just have a moment where God is specifically talking to Abraham, and he's saying, you do what I tell you to do. You be faithful and be blameless according to how I'm telling you to be blameless, or whatever that looks like between him and God, the things that God was speaking to him. You do this, and I'm going to make a covenant between me and you, and I'm going to greatly increase you. Verse 3, Abram fell face down, and God said to him, as for me, this is my covenant with you. You will be the father of many nations. No longer will you be called Abram. Your name will be Abraham, for I have made you a father of many nations. I will make you very fruitful. I will make nations of you, and kings will come from you. I will establish my covenant as an everlasting covenant between me and you and your descendants after you for generations to come, to be your God and the God of your descendants after you. The whole land of Canaan, where you now reside as a foreigner, I will give as an everlasting possession to you and your descendants after you, and I will be their God. Verse 9, then God said to Abraham, as for you, you must keep my covenant, you and your descendants after you for generations to come. This is my covenant with you and with your descendants, or with the descendants after you, the covenant you are to keep. Every male among you should be circumcised. You are to undergo circumcision, and it will be a sign of the covenant between me and you. So that was a specific thing, specifically for Abraham and the descendants to come after Abraham, a specific requirement. So that is a specific intentional thing given to him, and that's key to understand as we go on. Where we at? Let's see. I'm going to start at 12. It says, for the generations to come, every male among you who is 8 days old must be circumcised, including those born in the house or in the household or brought with money from a foreigner, those who are not your offspring, whether born in your house or brought with your money, they must be circumcised. My covenant in your flesh is to be everlasting, is to be an everlasting covenant. Any uncircumcised male who has not been circumcised to the flesh will be cut off from his people. He has broken my covenant. Then it goes on to say 15, God also said to Abraham, as for Sarai, your wife, you will no longer call her Sarai. Her name shall be Sarah. So again, we have specific mandates, specific things that God is requiring of Abraham in order to partake in the blessing, the inheritance, that God has promised. So that is so significant as it relates to us. So what is our requirements today in order to receive our inheritance or our portion? What is our requirement today in order to receive our inheritance or our portion? Well, first, what is our portion anyway? What does that mean? Your portion is your legal rights into accessing and or possessing your favor and blessing, with an emphasis on favor. Your portion and your inheritance never really is about the things that come along the way. You talk about the sheep and the houses and the lands, or the money and the homes and the businesses. All of these things are a result of your portion or your inheritance. It's a result of it. Favor is so critical here, because the favor of God allows you to access those things, that are meaningful to us in the flesh. Those physical things, the money, the homes, again, just the things. And sometimes you say homes and those things, and it always sounds so superficial, but this is where we live. We live in the world. We live in a physical realm, so we need these things, as we're here. Yeah, you can live in a hut if you want to, but what if you have a different desire? Your desires, So I don't have to go into all of that kind of thing. But nonetheless, favor is, this light is kind of flickering too, so I don't know if it's going to stop or not. But anyway, favor is what we really want. Favor is the thing that gives us access to our portions. So our requirements to receive are: we must obey God's instruction all the way through those moments when he is speaking. It's case specific. So in order for us to receive our inheritance, to receive the promise, the favor, we have to learn to obey God specifically according to our natures and our desires, specifically how God has called us individually. A big part of this ministry, as we've said time and time again, is guiding you, helping you get into your individual thriving space. And again, your individual thriving space, when you get there, not only benefits you, but it benefits everything around you, because you have decided to be and become and obey everything God is requiring of you in order to be a true son and a rightful heir to the inheritance. Man, sometimes we look outside of the specific boundaries and borders that God is trying to get us in specifically. Yes, every word spoken in the Bible is true and real, but God wants us to understand, I have something specifically for you to do that requires a connection that only you and me, you and God, are holding together. I can't tell you what God is telling you to do. You can, but you better believe that God is telling you specifically to do something. So what I'm saying is we go into this mode where we seek God's will, outside of God's will for us specifically. God does have an individual specific will for your life. And in order for you to inherit your portion and your promise, you got to learn what that means. I have, I would tell my kids, especially a little, as they were maybe a few years ago, I would try to tell them like what the difficulty about being a kid. And the difficulty is about being a kid or a child is you just don't know what you don't know. You just don't know what you don't know. Your identity is never found in the common place where men or kids go to congregate. It's found in the solitude and the solitudes of your life and your journey, where God speaks to you intentionally and deliberately. Why did I say this? Because the requirements needed today to possess our portion can only be revealed to us intentionally and specifically according to our individual destiny and calling. It is so critical and key, man, for us to understand this, because sometimes I look at the at the news and the media, and I see what's going on, and I'll see Christian people that call themselves believers. They will latch on to a system. And now I'm getting ready to say something that might make some of y'all mad, but I would say go take it to God, and you better take it to God fast. We think that the systems of man are going to free us. We think that the laws that we want in place, the things that we want man to do for us, even if they're rightfully so, even, yeah, you should do this. Even if that's in there, we look for man's laws to free us, when the truth of the matter is that can never happen, because we'll always be subject to how we believe and what we allow to free us or imprison us. Meaning, you can literally go after a system that is a man-made system, and you can go after it, and you can vote, you can do all of these things, and you can win, and you can feel the momentary effects of that win, and you can be like blah blah, but you're always going to be greeted with the reality of moving higher, and the hurtful part about it, or the truth about that is we have to go through hard moments to get to higher levels. So if we don't allow the hard moments to get us to yield to the nature and the character of God, then we will never experience the glory that, first of all, you owe God. You owe God that glory, that thing that God is saying, I've made you to be and become, and to act in this way. If you don't use the guidelines and the parameters of what that looks like, you'll never get there. So then you'll never get God the glory, and you'll never increase. So when the moment comes, when the hard moment comes for you to lean and depend on what God is telling you to do specifically and individually, you would have had no time to develop that muscle or that spirit, and then you're going to have to reap the results of what that looks like. I know you understand. So as we probe through our life, man, as we look to see what God is doing, the number one requirement for us to receive what God has said that we will receive is that we must obey his laws and his statutes that he's telling us. He may be telling them something totally different, but we both have to yield to whatever he's telling us. Of course, specifically and individually, but don't look to them and say, okay, this is how I'm supposed to do it because they look like they making it or whatever. No, you have to lean and depend on God for you and your life. You and your life, man. I had something else to say. I always say that, man, but I gotta say it anyway. Well, I've been trying to fit this in, and I'm not gonna try to fit it in. It's gonna come when it's supposed to come. But needless to say, being sold out to God is simply you doing exactly what God has told you to do, the way that he's told you to do it. That's all I got, y'all. Pastor Jamal, Rise the Ground Church. That's all. I'll talk to you. Peace.